Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. This show is sponsored by Kits Keep In Touch Systems, a two-time international award-winning marketing suite for sales professionals. REM Real Estate Magazine, Canada's premier monthly magazine for real estate professionals. Or REA, the Ontario Real Estate Association, Canada's largest provincial real estate association. And the ORCF, the Ontario Realtors Care Foundation, enabling and empowering realtors across Ontario to fundraise in support of shelter-related causes in the communities in which they live and work. You can learn more about all of our sponsors by visiting my site, mindshare101.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out the details of our upcoming Mindshare Mastermind happening in Toronto, September 16th through the 18th. We've got a speaker lineup which is absolutely loaded. Now, this is not your run-of-the-mill, typical same old lineup that you see at every conference. We're going deep on this one. We're going deep to bring you voices that are going to motivate and inspire you. They're going to help provoke that creative spark to elevate you to your next level of success. And over the course of 2.5 days, we're going to load you up with actionable value, leaving you wanting more. The discussion, the problem solving, and the collaboration, it's going to be powerful. You've been hearing me talk about it. You may have already reserved your spot for it, or maybe you've been considering it. Spots are limited, so do not wait. Book your ticket. Tell your closest colleague to book theirs too. Our 2024 Mindshare Mastermind is going to be epic, and you will thank yourself for being there. Check out the website for details, mindshare101.com. And of course, while you're there, be sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so you can build more mindshare to get more market share. Plus, learn more about our one-to-one coaching and keynote speaking. Today's episode is number 289. He is the host of 105.9, the region's On the Market real estate radio show, and he's also the broker-owner of RE/MAX Prime Properties with 7 locations, including Markham, Toronto, Pickering, Thornhill, and Mount Albert, Ontario. With a clear vision to provide real estate solutions, he sets the standard for today's realtor. And his mission is to exceed expectations by leading the way for the real estate industry. In March 2020, he received the Broker of the Year Award for Canada. This came on the heels of the Rookie Owner of the Year Award in 2017, a testament to his leadership and cutting-edge tools. An accredited buyer agent, certified luxury home marketing specialist, and Diamond Guild member, he provides a fresh, unfiltered opinion on market trends, conditions, and values. He is the recipient of the 100% Club, Platinum, Chairman, Titan, and Diamond Awards for Sales Excellence with RE/MAX, an honor that very few hold for sales achievement. He also holds the prestigious distinctions as a member of the RE/MAX Hall of Fame and the Lifetime Achievement Award. Joining me on this episode of the Mindshare Podcast is broker-owner of RE/MAX Prime Properties, Asif Khan. Asif, welcome back to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Oh, my friend. Yeah, listen, you've been here before. It's always a pleasure having you on. And I know I've had the the good opportunity of being on the 105.9 on the region, radio show that you host. How's things going, man?
Things are going well. It's the feeling out there is that it's going to start to get a little bit busier now with the recent rate drops. So we're looking forward to the next few months in real estate.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunity coming our way. I mean, go figure. Like, we are already into, the first half of the year is done.
It is.
Hard
to believe. Yeah.
Man, I can't believe how fast time keeps flying. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I was having that conversation with a coaching client this morning just about time and how it almost feels like there's never enough of it.
That's right. Yeah.
And it just keeps moving faster. But as we look back on this first 6 months, was it everything you expected it to be when it comes to market activity out there?
You know what? It wasn't. It started off with the promise that it was going to be a crazy busy year. And, getting into around late April, beginning of May, it started to really go on pause almost. And people that were coming off the fence over the past few months started to jump back on that fence and waiting for that big announcement in June. And when that announcement came, I think the sentiment was it's going to get crazy, but it hasn't happened yet. So, we're hoping that as people get requalified for mortgages or with the new rates, that they'll start to come back off that fence and the activity will start again. But we might be a couple of weeks away before that happens.
Yeah, it seems like we still got some time ahead of us. What was your feeling about the impact of the rates on the market as a whole? Like what have you seen, maybe hearing from your agents or any colleagues in the industry? Just has it had any type of impact in any way? You mentioned people jumping back on the fence who are about to jump off the fence. Like,
It's had more of an impact in the outlying areas. So if you're going out towards the Sarnias, the Windsors, you've started to see people get back into the market. Things are really heating up out in the outlying areas. In the GTA itself, it's still a little bit conservative. People are still doing their due diligence. They want to make sure they're making the right decision. And although there's a lot of activity with showings, we haven't seen that translate into offers as yet. And I think that comfort level or that level of confidence that we need the buyers to be at to make those decisions hasn't been reached yet. But I think we're close.
interesting. So do you think we see more going on in July? Do you think we see that next move in July?
I think we do. There's a lot of talk that, they'll probably hold with the inflation numbers being a little bit higher than what they were last month. But I think what the fear was would these rate decreases fuel the market to a level where the prices would start to climb again? And we didn't see that with the June decrease. So that may give the Bank of Canada confidence that they can go down another quarter point or so. And maybe that will fuel the market. But I think there's still a lot of people waiting to see what happens at the July announcement, which is, again, it's about a month away. So hopefully they start to see that maybe a variable mortgage may be what's key in order to move them forward. And it's that level of confidence, the consumer confidence that has to return to the market. And we haven't seen that yet.
I would agree with that. Now, as we see, if that next decrease comes in the month of July or possibly in September, what do we see as the impact on prices? Do we see those climbing? What's your thoughts on that? I mean, nobody's got a real crystal ball, and as you mentioned off the top there, it's easy to look at some of the things that we thought it was promised that the market would pick back up. We didn't see that activity necessarily happen exactly the way everybody was hoping it would be. But what do we see when it comes to prices if the rates continue to come down?
I think there's going to be upward pressure on price for sure. And that's happened every time the rate has decreased. We've seen the prices start to climb. And I think what we're probably going to see, or what I anticipate that we will see, is that it won't be as drastic a shift as what we saw back in 2020 or 2021. But I think we will see some upward pressure on price as the market starts to heat up. And that's normal. But the other thing, when we're looking at prices, David, the one thing we have to remember is the prices that are mentioned in the media are average prices. Mm-hmm. So when you have them reporting that the average price has fallen 2.5% like they did last month, you have to take the mix into consideration. And the high-end houses aren't selling as much as they did in the previously heated markets. So you're going to see a bit of a decline when you're selling more houses in the $1 million range rather than the $1.5 million range. That aggregate average is going to come down. So we have to remember to look at the mix and compare apples to apples. So if you're comparing condos to condos or townhouses to townhouses, semis to semis, detached to detached, you're going to see that the price didn't really fall. It was just the mix of product that was being sold that changed and allowed more lower end product to sell, which created the impression that price was falling.
I think that there's another maybe telltale sign to that, or maybe impression that's being created. And I've been talking about this sometime now for the past number of weeks, but finding these different articles that are talking about houses that are losing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of value in somebody trying to just resell at this moment. And I find it important to clarify for anybody that's seeing stuff like that is to again look and say, well, why are these people selling? To look at, when did they purchase, to look at the impact of just what's causing this next transaction to be so soon. And I do believe, Asif, that a lot of people got into this market when everybody else was getting into this market back in 2021 and 22, and, doing it maybe because other people were doing it and not necessarily having, the right outlook mathematically on what might happen if rates go up. Yeah. And now that we see that, we do see some people who are needing to get out of their houses, hence, again, taking big hits because they just can't afford to sustain. And I think that also is going to skew what the average prices look like out there. It's also going to maybe skew some mindset from some people around, where the opportunities may be. But that also, for me, is one of those things that I want to, kind of highlight that, my optimism on that, where if there are people that are going to go ahead and, move because of whatever is being forced upon them from the economics of it all, it does provide opportunity for many other people out there. What's your thoughts on that around like those massive drops right now?
I agree. And, the one thing to remember is during the COVID period or just after, it was almost like a leasing phenomena that hit the real estate industry and what I mean is when car leases first came out, people would try and get as much car for the payment that they were making. Right. And so you saw people driving high-end cars because it fit their payment. And we saw that with homes. People wanted to buy as much house as their payment could afford. And with the interest rates being, just below 2% or even just hovering above 2%, that was a lot of house for the payment that they would have to pay. Now that we're coming into renewals that are going to be maybe more than double of what the rate was when they first signed up for this home, you're starting to see that the payment is not sustainable anymore. And those houses are the ones that are coming on the market, but not only houses where people are using for their primary residence. We had people buy investment properties and rent those out during that time. And those are the properties that the rent cannot sustain the new mortgage amounts. And we're starting to see people put those on the market right now. And that's why I think there's a saturation in the condo market for listings. It's because there's a lot of these investment opportunities from the past that have now, they've had to come back on the market because the rent they were charging was not enough to cover the mortgage rates and the maintenance fees there.
Yeah, I think and this is where I see, it's easy for people to look and perspective is everything. It's easy for people to look on one side and think to themselves that, the sky is falling. And then, there's the other side of things that says, hey, where one door closes for somebody, another door opens for somebody else. And so, again, I do believe that there's a lot of opportunity coming our way. And we know that there's a lot of renewals coming up. And, so I come back to, this is a moment in time right now where even if there's I don't want to say a lack of activity, but not maybe as much activity as a lot of people desired in the market right now. There's a lot of good things that people could be doing at this moment in time to lay the foundation for, again, what is to come, because I do truly believe there's a lot of good coming our way. Now, how do you, for you, and again, today's topic, how to become a Hall of Fame realtor. First, I should acknowledge, as I was reading off your bio, is there anything you haven't won yet?
There's a lot.
Maybe the Stanley Cup. I get it. We're both big hockey fans, right? But seriously, man, those are some incredible accolades, Asif. Congratulations on that stuff, man.
Oh no, thank you so much. And it's always a group effort. It's never one person that can achieve that success. And I have a great group behind me, and so a lot of those accolades are shared accolades and I couldn't have done it without the people that supported me through that and helped me through that. So again, it's great to read that on paper, but there's a lot more to it, and it's a lot of hard work that goes into it from a group of people. So I think I'd be amiss if I didn't share that with them. So it really is a group effort.
Oh, fair enough. And I would say it's probably an answer that I would completely agree with. I know for myself, when we look at the two businesses we've got and the team that is part of it, I get to have a lot of fun. I get to be on the front lines with a lot of people, but that is just one part of it. If I didn't have the team behind me, what are we really doing, right? What are we really accomplishing? So I'm very grateful for that. But wanted to ask, as we talk about the rates, we talk about the market, we talk about what's going on out there, and of course your successes and how you got there. How do you stay on top of what's happening in the market on a daily basis, and maybe specifically, what sources are you looking to, to provide you that information so that you've got a well-rounded, base of knowledge that whether it's right here on the Mindshare podcast or it's with a colleague or it's with a client. Or it's on your own radio show, that you can bring some up-to-date insights to people. And I asked that question in obviously one side of what do you do to educate yourself, but at the same time, for our listeners, where do you suggest maybe they go to kind of tune in and listen? Is there anybody specific, or do you try to just grab a ton of it?
You know what? It's old school networking, and it's being, part of groups that will elevate you. It's being in tune with the market, not only active in terms of selling real estate, but also being active, talking to potential buyers or future buyers and seeing what they're looking for, speaking to industry experts, not only from the boards and area, but also, speaking with, coaches like you, David, getting a perspective on what your coaching clients are seeing out there. We both have coaching clients across the country, and we get a lot of good perspective from them as to what's happening right across the country or right across North America. It's speaking with other broker owners. It's having meetings or lunches or networking opportunities with other agents, top agents in the REMAX system, get together every month and share stories of what's happening. And I think all of that together goes into forming your opinions and your insight into what's actually happening. And then you're able to parlay that to potential buyers and sellers and even other agents in the office to let them know what you're seeing and what you're hearing. And then they're able to use that information to form their opinions too.
It's amazing how it always comes back to networking with other people.
Sure does.
Doesn't it?
We lost a lot of that during the COVID period. And, I feel a little bit bad for people that were licensed during that period because they didn't have the interaction. They weren't going to classes. They weren't going into the office and seeing people, asking questions, learning more about the market. But we're starting to see a return to that now. So the agents that are currently active are all the ones that are networking with other agents and seeing what's happening out in the market, and they have their finger on the pulse. And the ones that are falling behind are the ones that are still working on their own, trying to navigate this real estate world on their own. So I would suggest to everyone to get back to the basics, get belly to belly, and have conversations with people, ask them what's going on and ask them what you can do to elevate your game.
It's interesting. We think about the longevity of the game of real estate and even the world of sales and business. And with all the technology we have our hands on today and access to, a big part of it still comes back to that one-to-one connection with another human being. And as we talk about, the education, and we talk about the, getting ourselves to that point where we came out of this crazy period of time a few years ago to where we are now. And there's been a lot of evolution, a lot of shift, a lot of change. What would you say at this moment in time, as you do speak with a lot of different people from, coast to coast and even down south, what is the biggest challenge that you are seeing from agents, maybe I'd say your agents or agents in general, any agent right now? Again, what's that biggest challenge? What are you suggesting that they do about it?
I think it's being proactive. We're in a very reactive society, and we don't do anything until we're forced to do it. And I think being proactive, reaching out to people, getting back to the basics, using systems like kits to send out communication pieces, anything that you can do to stay in touch with people and reach out to people, that's what's going to set you ahead. And you look at people that are struggling right now, and they're being reactive. They're waiting for their phone to ring. They're waiting for someone to call them and say, I want to buy this property and let's go and see it. But there's no proactive approach to it. They're not reaching out to them and saying, hey, here's a property I found for you. Let's go see it. Because there's a lot that they're leaving on the table by not being proactive. And I think in this business, and especially now, but even going back 7, 8, 10 years, we had to be proactive in the business. And that's what set a lot of people apart. That's what separated the contenders from the pretenders. And we're back right there right now it's the old school techniques, the old school prospecting that's going to get people to the next level. There's a lot of new tools that we can use to enhance that type of connection, but we still have to have those connections.
And I want to talk to some of those tools in just a moment here. All that said, though, as we look at that, I think that's great perspective. And it's interesting because I believe that message has, been constant. It's been a consistent message since the day anybody got licensed.
That's right.
Get out there, talk to people, communicate with other people, be proactive about what you're doing in a day, really have a plan and go out there and get it. Whereas a lot of folks will sit back as and I've coined the term sort of the hunter versus the order taker. The order taker, much like somebody who's waiting for you to order a pizza, is waiting for you to order the pizza. And when you order it, they're going to go ahead and make it. They're going to deliver it to you and done. And then they're going to sit back and they're going to wait for the next order to come through.
Yeah.
Whereas the hunter is constantly out there setting traps, hopefully catching food, getting deals. And then before they go ahead and actually do the deal, they go set more traps so that they can, eat again tomorrow. And I think that the mentality there is where, everybody really needs to take that simplified mentality and think to themselves again, if I look at my business right now, am I an order taker or am I a hunter? And, I would suggest that being proactive very much is about being a hunter. Get out there and look for that next deal, that next meal. And if you are busy right now and you are working on a listing and you are, dealing with clients, and I get it, there's always going to be stuff that you got to do. Don't forget to take some time throughout the day and do some of these proactive things to grow your business. What would you say though is, one of the biggest misconceptions that realtors will have about what it takes to create long-term success?
I think the biggest misconception is they get into this business thinking it's going to be easy just because they have a database in their phone. And if you're not doing anything with that database, it's hard to build roots, right? It's hard to build that foundation that's going to get you to the next level. You have to have a plan. And without that plan, it's hard to move forward. So I think the first thing is, working on their schedule, working on their availability. Then after that, it's setting a contact plan to try and, have some sort of plan where they are getting in front of their database. They are communicating with their database on a regular intervals. And I think all of that gets lost where people get into the business and think the phone's just going to ring and they're going to make $1 million right away. And it's going to be really easy, but it's a lot of work. And I think that gets lost in translation when people are looking at this career and thinking, this might be a good way for them to transition into for their next career or their first career. I think the level of work and the skill level that's required to go with that hard work is what gets lost in translation.
How long you been in this game for?
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years. Okay. So you've been through some different markets. 20
Yeah.
years, we come back 2004. So you weren't there in the early 90s, but you certainly were around for that. So that was a different time. When you came in, though, where did your first deal come from? What did you do to get that deal? Way back when you just started the business, you getting your feet wet. It's that whole thing of like, is there going to be $1 million deal that drops out of the sky for me? But yeah, where did you get the first deal from? What'd you do to get it?
I was doing 2 open houses every Saturday and 2 open houses every Sunday. And I was just reaching out to realtors in my office. I would do 1 open house from 12 to 2 and another open house from 3 to 5. And it was a lot of work. And, there was it's pretty ironic, but there was a lady that walked in to my open house and said to me, I have a house that I'm selling around the corner. It's a private sale. So if anyone comes here and doesn't like this house, send them over to me. And I said to her, I said, can I come? I'm going to finish here at 5:00. Can I come and see your house? And then she said, okay. I went over, I saw the place, I made some notes. And then I asked her why she was selling privately.
Yeah.
And had a good conversation, then met with her and her husband the next day and listed the house. And then I sold that house. And that house was on a road called Stepping Stone. And
go figure.
Yeah.
That's a little bit ironic right there, my
Isn't
man.
that ironic?
That is wild. Stepping Stone. Oh my
Stepping
God.
Stone. So but it was weeks and months of doing 2 open houses every Saturday, every Sunday, and just making sure that I was getting out there and staying in the game, because it's not only trying to sell the house that you're doing the open house for, or try to get buyers, but there's an aspect of being in that moment that keeps you grassroots in real estate. And you learn a lot from talking to the buyers that are coming in. You learn a lot from the listings that are out there. And I think that's what people have to do instead of sitting at home and just not doing much. You've got to get out there, knock on doors, do open houses, and make sure that you're really immersing yourself in the career.
I just absolutely wild that it was called Stepping Stone.
Yeah.
But love the fact, you see, and that's an important one right there, right? She came in there and she said, I'm selling this privately. And I mean, I think you could have at that time been like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll let people know. Instead, though, you took the opportunity to actually build a little bit of rapport with her and see if you could come by and get the meeting later on. And I mean, hey, the worst she could have said was no, but she took that opportunity and ended up actually listing the property.
Yeah.
That is very cool. So the open house definitely worked. The conversation with her worked.
Yeah.
So how did you create the snowball effect for your business? Because you got Rookie of the Year award, right?
So Rookie of the Year was when I opened up the brokerage.
Okay, when you opened the brokerage.
The snowball effect actually went back. So 6 months into the business, I was going to quit.
Whoa, why?
It was, I'd only done, so actually my first deal was actually a commercial deal. I got into real estate to be a commercial agent. I came from the franchising industry, so I knew a lot of people that owned franchises. So my first sale technically was a franchise sale.
Okay.
And that was all I had. So I was about 6 months into the business. I had made about $16,000. I came from a career where I was making, a 6-figure income with the car allowance. And I walked into my broker's office and I put my key down and I said, thank you very much, but I can't do this. And he said, what are you talking about? You've done 2 leases and a sale, and that's really good. A lot of people don't do 3 deals in a year. And he was trying to get me to stay. And that's when he asked me to go to, there was a coaching company putting on a session downtown Toronto. And he said, you should go to this session. It's 3 days. And I said, well, I don't want to pay another $900. And he said, well, just take it off your next deal. And I thought, oh, okay, that's a good idea. And we started talking, and I went to this session and just heard a lot of really good things and a lot of things that I wasn't doing in the business. And, subsequently, I hired them as my coach, and it really changed the game. So that was end of December. I got licensed in June. This was end of December. And then January, I thought, well, I still don't have much now. I'm paying for coaching. Maybe I should go out and get a job. And then that February, everything aligned and I sold 8 houses.
Wow.
And that was the turning point. And that's when it all clicked. And the important thing to remember is you can't stop after you do those 8 deals. You have to use what you learned. You have to leverage those deals into future deals. And that was the hard part, was trying to learn how to leverage the business that you have and create new business.
So tell us more about that then. How did you go about doing that?
That's when, actually, I think that's when you and I met, and I started using the KITS program in the subdivision I lived in to send out the monthly newsletters. I had a CRM now that I was working, so it wasn't just on my phone. I actually had a CRM that I was sending out monthly newsletters.
Hold on. So the phone book list it's not enough? I can't run my whole business just like that.
It's I wish it was that easy, but you have to invest in yourself. And if you don't invest in yourself, who's going to invest in you? Right. So you have to remember that you're building a career, you're building your own brand. And it's really important that you do what's necessary to get you to that point. It's not like my corporate job where someone was telling me what to do and setting my schedule and giving me assignments to say, I need this done by this time. The great thing about real estate is that you're in business for yourself and nobody tells you what to do. The worst thing about being in real estate is that you're in business for yourself and nobody tells you what to do. So, again, being around people that can guide you, tell you what's required, what they did to be successful, getting into those conversations, which is what's key. And that really, obviously, to do 8 deals in a month when I hadn't even been in business for the entire year, it was the game changer. And it was a lot of work.
It's I have to take the opportunity right now for the shameless plug, and forgive me, everybody in Asif. We've got the Mindshare Mastermind coming up in September, the 16th through the 18th. And as you talk about these events, and you talk about when you first started and your broker suggested, go to this event, and you thought to yourself, well, the money's not there. Now, between the two of you, you figured out a creative way to make that come to life. However, it was the actual outcome of going to that event is where it sounds like you started to pick up some steam. You started to learn some different things, see some different ways of doing things, some actions that you could implement into your business. And then lo and behold, you started to see some of that, the fruits of the labor, the efforts begin to, show you the successes that will come from the other side.
Yeah.
Would you recommend, again, I guess you're probably a big supporter. And look, I'll go general right now. Attend an event, get out there, be part of it, take in the education.
David, I probably attend, and I see you at a lot of events too, but I probably attend 8 to 12 events a year.
Okay. And
a lot of people will say, well, why do you still go to these events? You already know what you're doing. It's not about knowing what you're doing. I knew what I needed to know to get me to where I am, but I don't know what I need to know to get me to the next level. And when you're in these groups, you're with like-minded people who also want to be at these events, who also want to be better every day. And I came from a Japanese company when I worked in corporate, and a big thing was Kaizen. And Kaizen,
I was about to ask you about that. Do you know that every time I totally cut you off. Every time I hear that word, I think about you.
Oh, really?
Now you call that building mind share right there, my friend. But I'm telling you, I hear Kaizen. I'm like, Asif taught me about that one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's true though. It's everything that we do. We have to want to be a little bit better every day. And it doesn't mean that you need to go from 5 deals to 20 deals the next year. If you went from 5 deals to 6 or 7 deals, you've improved. And it's those incremental improvements, but doing that consistently is what's going to set you apart from the competition.
So again, and I'll throw it out there to everybody, is that, with our mastermind coming up in September, it is a very different event. It's not the run of the mill typical. It's not a big room. We're maxing at about 35 people, and we're doing that very much on purpose because we want people to be able to be part of the event, not just attend the event.
Yeah.
We want people to be able to speak, to be able to collaborate, to be able to share problems, to be able to share solutions, and really work with each other so that everybody's getting a whole bunch of different perspectives. And be able to walk away and actually implement. We've got, we're not bringing in your typical industry speakers. We've got folks that are, really next level, experts and masters in their field. It's not somebody who just did one deal, who's got a great Instagram account. Instead, these are people who have truly helped move the needle for major corporations, and getting insights from folks like that, to help us run our, quote unquote, small businesses. It's invaluable. So I just want to throw it out there to everybody, September 16th to the 18th. You can check it out on the website, mindshow101.com/mastermind. I encourage you, join us. There's not a lot of seats left, but, we certainly look forward to, to you joining us if, that's something that you've got some time to do. As Asif is saying here, and of course, many of us do, attending events and being around like-minded people, you're always going to win. You're always going to win. So all that said, though, Asif, as we talk about this, what daily actions, what non-negotiables need to be, part of anybody's day in order to create and sustain long-term success? What would you suggest? And maybe what are even some of those things that you do that are like, they have to be done?
It's contacting 5 people a day. It's something that I started with, and it's something that, I know when I don't contact 5 people a day, that nothing's going to come of that day. And even if it's just a 45-second phone call, a text message, an email, you have to contact people every day. It's a contact sport. You're probably getting tired of hearing that, but real estate is a contact sport. And if you're not contacting people, if you're relying on them to reach out to you, don't expect to be successful. Because how many people are going to reach out to you and say, hey, I want to buy a house? But by being in touch with them, by educating them, there's so much information available on the internet, but then there's the decision. And we need to be that bridge between the information to the decision. And when you're speaking with people and when you're trying to, we talked about what the media reports in terms of average price. A lot of clients will look at that and say, well, prices are dropping, so I'm just going to wait until they drop a little bit more, and then I'll be ready to buy. But when you can explain to them that it's not a price drop, it's a shift in the mix, and if you sell $10 million properties, it's going to be different than selling $5 million properties and 5 $10 million properties. Now the average price has gone up, and it's not that the $1 million house has gone up 75%. It's just that $1 million house sold for $1 million and the $10 million house sold for $10 million. So once you can start to explain the mix and why the average price appears to be what it is, now you've just educated that consumer, and now they're going to make an informed decision. So they're not just relying on what's on the web, what they see on sites like House Sigma. You're actually providing some context, and they're able to make an informed decision now. And I think that gets lost a lot. So when you're contacting people and people say, well, I don't know what to say, there's a lot that you can talk about. I don't talk about real estate when I phone people. They will bring up real estate because they know I'm in real estate. So they're going to ask me how the market is. They're going to ask me about pricing. They're going to ask me about interest rates. I don't have to bring that up. And that's what generates the conversations that eventually lead to people buying or selling. It's not a conversation to call and say, hey, are you thinking of buying or are you thinking of selling? That's not what it is. It's having the conversations, building that relationship, building the trust, and having them rely on you for when they do make that decision.
So I completely agree. And I think the big takeaway there again is communicate to educate. If we go in there, we make the phone call, we don't make it about sales, we don't make it about what we do for a living. but we truly ask some genuine questions to, basically find out more about them, maybe what they're up to right now from a personal or a business perspective. And then through the process, what we call active listening, we truly listen to what they have to say and truly build a conversation around what they just shared. Yeah, I agree with you. At some point, they're going to turn around and be like, so how's business? How's the market? What's going on in real estate? And that's your opportunity to, hey, combat the narrative out there. Whatever people are hearing about from the mainstream media, give your perspective, share, see if they've got more questions. So again, we ask about non-negotiables, and you mentioned, 5 phone calls a day. And I know I can attest to that. I know you're incredible with that. You'll message me just out of nowhere, about hockey or something random, or like if you're in the neighborhood, hey, you at the office, right? Like it's just these little, little pokes, but friendly and relational, that aren't about, hey, what can I get from you? It's very much just a, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
And that always keeps the conversation going.
Yeah.
What else beyond the phone calls would you suggest that people need to keep in their day? And I love the fact that you said 5 as opposed to like 500, or call your entire database, or spend 3 hours a day. Like make 5 calls. If it takes you all day, because you did one in the morning, one kind of on the drive to the next meeting, one in the afternoon, but you made 5 different calls, you're winning.
And I think the other thing is keep your finger on the pulse. Be ready to answer questions. So that means getting on the MLS every day. That means seeing what's happening in your areas, making sure what's up for sale, what's being sold, and use the prospect searches in our MLS to your advantage. And by that I mean set yourself up on a prospect search. So if you're farming 5 or 6 or 10 streets, set yourself on a prospect search for those 5 or 6 or 10 streets, so that when something's listed, when something is sold conditional or sold firm. And that keeps you in tune with the area rather than, having to go in and search every day and things like that. Set yourself up on a prospect search and know your area, because when people ask you what that house sold for last night, you don't want to be surprised and say, oh, that house sold last night. You want to know. And I think it's, again, proactive versus reactive. Make sure that you're immersing yourself in your career, and that's how you're going to get better.
Love those 2 points there. Real important. Now, as we talk about all this, and we know that everybody's wearing a lot of different hats, there's always a lot to do in a day, prospect searches, social media videos, making phone calls, doing meetings, listing properties, door knocking. It's a lot. Do you think it's possible, or what's your take on a realtor being able to leverage time? Is it possible? Or do agents need to be on call 24/7? It's like the minute that phone rings, like, I got to go.
So I treat my phone more as an answering service. And
Okay.
in my voicemail, I'm pretty clear. I return calls at 11:30 a.m. and I return calls at 3:30 p.m.
Does that mean, forgive me, does that mean in your schedule, you've actually said 11:30 return calls and then 3:30 return calls?
Yep.
So you've actually got time blocked for that?
Yeah, half an hour blocked at 11:30 and at 3:30. And that way I'm setting the expectation. So when people are calling me, they know when I'm going to call back. So they're not sitting by their phone saying, oh my God, it's been 5 minutes, it's been 10 minutes, it's been half an hour. They know when I'm going to call back. And, it's taking control of your schedule. There's, if my agents are calling me, I'm going to answer their call if there's nothing else going on. But at the same time, they know that I will call them back. If you call someone back at 5:30 and it's past your 3:30 time and they're expecting you to call the next day, they're gonna be really happy that you called them after hours. So, set your time, block your time. Time blocking is huge. And I didn't understand how huge time blocking was until I got into coaching. And my first coach, the first exercise I had was to time block. And by that, I mean, scheduling the time for me to make my 5 phone calls. It was scheduling time for lunch. It was scheduling time for dinner. It was scheduling time for the kids' hockey games. And then I set my schedule for work after I blocked all of that time out. So if I'm working from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., those are my hours. And once you communicate your hours to people, and the worst thing I did was when I first started off, I would say, oh, you know what, I have a meeting at 7 o'clock. I didn't have a meeting. I was coaching my kids' hockey team. And then people would say, oh, well, I want to see houses at 7 o'clock. But once I started saying, no, I'm coaching my kids' hockey team, it was like, oh, we don't want to get in the way of your kids' hockey team. No problem. We'll see it tomorrow. So just be honest with them. And
so you actually found that honesty to say, hey, I'm tied up with personal stuff didn't actually deter people. It actually made people a little bit more empathetic with you.
Yeah, because they know that they're people too, right? And they want to know
Yep.
that you're human. A lot of people will say, oh my God, I worked until midnight last night. It's because we put stuff like 11:59 irrevocables. If you put a 6:59 irrevocable, they're going to get back to you by 7 p.m. So, we're our worst enemy by doing that to ourselves and then complaining that we work too much. But if you set the parameters and you set the expectations, people will, fall in line with those expectations that you have and that you've set for them.
So it is actually possible then to leverage time in this game.
Sure is, yeah.
Okay.
And we do work a lot, and
yeah.
If you think about it, we have to be available when people are not working, and that's usually after 5 p.m. But as long as you say, hey, I can show properties Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, then you're going to fill your calendar with those. Have a Calendly link and get them to schedule it. So they'll go through and say, okay, well, David's available here, 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 and they can schedule time for their showings. So it shows that you're available. It shows when you're available, and they're happy to be able to fit into that schedule.
Okay, so then if I want to be, or if anybody wants to be a Hall of Fame realtor, do they need to put family second to business, or how do they ensure that they really do achieve that work-life balance while still chasing even their own personal goals?
So that's a tough question. No, you block off your personal time first. However, we also have to know that sometimes there's going to be, instances where we will have to override that schedule.
Right.
So, you may have family time blocked off for a Saturday evening, but then someone goes and puts an offer date on a property that your clients really want. So, in that instance, you do have to do that override. So I don't want to say, oh yeah, time block and family first, and you don't have to do it. There's always instances where, we have to put work up there as well. So I would time block, and it'll weed out 75% of those conflicts, but 25% of the time there's got to be an override once in a while.
Okay, and you know what? That's a very fair answer. But I do like, again, the premise of it all is do the time block.
Yeah.
Be intent on what it is that you want to do from both a business perspective as well as a personal perspective. Do the best you can to really work to what you set out, and you should get closer to achieving. And yes, when that thing comes up every once in a while, you got to know where to bob and weave, and you got to know where sometimes, like you said, sorry, I'm coaching. Coaching my kids. And I mean, you and I both have been very involved actively in coaching sports. I know that I think your time came to a close this past year.
It did.
Right. Mine is coming very shortly, and it's just, it's par for the course when you do that. And I mean, it's a lot of time involved on a personal level, raising our kids and being around and raising other kids in terms of helping them become better people, better athletes. Much the same sometimes as there is that focus on business, which we all do have. There are going to be times where you do need to, prioritize, again, what's going on in that moment. And although family is always going to be priority, there are moments there where, we are in business for ourselves. We are business owners. We are entrepreneurs. Like you said, we're our own bosses. Yeah. And you reap what you sow.
Yeah. And it works the other way as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yep.
You may have showings booked, but your kid gets hurt in a hockey game and you need to take her to the hospital. So, it does work the other way as well. But as long as you time block it and schedule it, there's a lot less conflicts.
So look, you and again, continue our theme of, becoming a Hall of Fame realtor. We've talked about a bunch of good stuff today, educating yourself and connecting with other people. You mentioned non-negotiables being phone calls. What other marketing channels, maybe in short, are you suggesting that are really working right now for your agents and anybody you're chatting with?
Well, a lot of people are really worried about leads and online leads. And, leads are great, but what are you doing with those leads? So you have to perfect your dialogue with these online leads and how to bring that online lead into a business relationship. And it's a tough way to do it. And also being persistent. So I think consistency and being persistent are two things that go hand in hand. And it's there's a lot of business out there, there's a lot of realtors out there. How do you stand out from the rest? And I think it's got to be keeping yourself educated, keeping your finger on the pulse, and being in the game. Always being ready to compete, always being ready to go out and win that game. And that takes, again, persistence, consistency, practice, all the elements that we would talk about to our hockey teams, David, or our
Yep.
baseball teams.
Yep.
But it all comes back into play in real estate as well, because all of those elements will go into the end goal, which is success.
Absolutely. Now, as we talk about these different things we can do out there, I know, again, phone calls are huge. Connecting with people are huge. It seems like right now, open houses and door knocking have been very fruitful for many people. I know that this idea of lead gen is out there. Online lead gen is not the only way to do it. You can go actually speak to people today to generate new opportunities. So it's, to me, there's a bigger umbrella around the lead generation aspect of our worlds. But as we do talk tech for a quick moment, what is your take on this AI revolution in real estate? And are there any specific ways that you're suggesting for your agents to take advantage of it, or are you cautioning them in other ways maybe about it?
I think the caution is don't rely solely on what AI provides you to get your message out. Use AI as, kind of like we used Google before. And it will give you a base of what you should work with, but don't just rely on AI. AI is not going to change the game, but agents that utilize AI properly are going to change the game. And I think that's an important thing to note. There's a lot of people relying solely on what AI provides. And, sometimes that could come back because AI is going to take everything that's available to it on the internet and form its answer for you. And sometimes not all the right stuff is available on the internet. So you still have to be able to
decide. You're kidding. Wait, what?
Yeah. So I heard someone said that Winnipeg was going to win the Stanley Cup, and that's on the internet, but that's not going to happen. It's our year next year. So
of course it's our year next year. Leafs are winning it.
So you have to be able to, decipher that information and make your own conclusion from the information that you're provided.
When we think about the industries out there that have succumbed to the online part of the world, from retail to movie rentals, you name it, travel agents, we talk about our game here in real estate, and we often look at the fact that with all this influx of technology, there's got to be something to be said about remaining relevant. And this question's been asked sometime over for the past number of years. But again, as AI becomes even more and more prevalent, and we do lean on technology, and we begin to even put technology in between, us and our consumer, in between us and the people out there that we want to do business with, what would you say is the trick to realtors actually remaining relevant and not being taken over by AI or social media or technology for that matter?
I think it's being real people. It's being, present. It's being active in the industry. When you think about AI, I always come back to this one example, and it's the automated value models for appraisals, for home evaluations. And there's a lot of information that goes into providing people with a number of what the value of their home should be. but very rarely is it accurate. And the reason is there's no human element to it. There's no objectivity to it. It's a very, it's basically taking raw data and converting it and saying, here's what AI thinks the value of your property is. But that property could have gone through drastic renovations. It could have gone through, maybe the entire area has been transformed. Maybe there's a condo building coming in the backyard, which is going to devalue it. There's so much that goes into a valuation model that cannot be answered by what's available on the internet or AI. And, that's a great example as to why people can't just solely rely on AI. They need to be out there, they need to be active, and they need to be proactive in being educated enough to be able to provide context to that and come up with the right valuation in terms of the AVMs. And it's the same thing in any other instance when you're solely relying on an online model or AI to do your work for you, you're going to fall behind.
Good point, man. And I would say I would double down on that and just say, again, we want to make sure that we are staying in touch with our clients and not allowing anybody or anything to get in between that. And the stronger you develop those relationships, the more contact you create, the more trust that you build. And the more trust you build, the more opportunity that presents itself to you. So it's all good and nice to take advantage of technology. And I was on a session earlier this morning asking people why their cameras weren't turned on, and just encouraging everybody, take advantage of the tech that's available to you, right? Yeah. But remember, what we want to do is we want to make sure we remain relevant. And I think, it continues to be an ongoing theme, but there's a lot of folks out there that question, the relevance of a realtor and why are realtors getting paid what they are. We in the industry know what kind of, work is involved, and time and effort and even money from our end is involved. The average consumer does not necessarily understand that. Much the same, though, in order to make sure that we do keep, people believing in the fact that they do require a realtor. And I would say 100 million % hands down, you do. Because like you just said, the objective value that comes from it, the real life experiences of going through the deals and understanding how to keep people safe and how to people, get people the most bang for their buck, help them craft a deal. Those are intangibles. And that is what a good realtor is going to bring to the table at all times. So again, advice to anybody right now, always take advantage of learning more about the technology that's available, learning more about what tools can help you. But do not put this stuff in between you and your most important audience. Because as Asif said, this is where he built his business from. Again, Hall of Fame realtor has won every award, in the book. And, the message, hey, man, smile about it. Absolutely do. Right. It's amazing. And a big congratulations to you again. Today we've talked about how, but the big question becomes like, how? Because there's a lot of people that want to get there. And there's not a lot that you've listened to today that's been this earth-shattering, oh my God, I've never heard it before. And I don't say that from a negative. I say that from the complete positive to say, look, the best of the best continue to share a very similar story, continue to share very similar tactics around what it takes to actually have success. Listen to it. Build off of it. There's no magic pill. There's no secret potion. Asif said it. It comes down to effort, comes down to discipline, comes down to time blocking. You do the right things and the right things will happen. Now, to all that, Asif, your day is over. You finish it up, irrevocable was at 6:59, so you didn't have to go past it later on at night. But you're sitting down with the family or you've gone through an incredible day and whatever's happened in your day. How do you know at the end of the day it's been a successful day for you?
Successful day. I think, success can be defined in various ways, but I think a successful day would be making a difference to someone, a buyer, a seller, an agent in my office, and being able to solve problems. I think when it comes down to our entire business, our entire industry, it's about solving someone's problem. So knowing that you were able to solve someone's problem, I think makes it a complete day. And Yeah, I would say that.
I love that, man. Once again, nobody says the word money.
That's right.
Just keep trying. Hey, I'm telling you, man, nobody ever brings up money when I ask that question.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting one, right? Because when you ask people what they define as success, they tell you how much money they want to make. What are your
Yeah.
goals? Well, here's how much money I want to make. But then when you say, what's a successful day look like to you? Nobody talks about how much money they made.
It's true. Yeah.
Just some, insights. Asif, we were talking about how to become a Hall of Fame realtor. Any final words of wisdom that you can give anybody aspiring to be a Hall of Fame realtor? Anything you want to leave behind as we sign off today?
Guys, I think the main thing to remember is there's so many shiny objects out there that will promise that you will do so much more business if you purchase them or use them. And it goes, you just got to get back to the basics, and that never changes. And think about when you're building your foundation, people will fall off and say, well, I'm having a terrible year. Okay, well, what did you change? Are you still doing what you did to get you to where you got to? And they'll say, well, I don't need to do that anymore. No, you still need to do that, because that's what got you to where you are. You can enhance it now that you know a lot more, or you've done a lot more business, or you have more experience, but you can't just forget about it. You've got to still keep bringing it and go back to those basics, figure out what you used to do. Someone told me once, oh, you shouldn't door knock, because how many people have you knocked on their door and they said, oh, I want to buy a house, or they said, oh yeah, please list my house. And I thought, oh yeah, that's right. And then one of my coaches asked me why I was having a terrible year. And he said, are you still door knocking? And I said, oh, I'm not door knocking. That was a waste of time. And he said, okay, so let's go through all of your transactions. And he said, where did this person come from? I said, my database. And they said, how were they added to your database? And I said, oh, door knocking. Where did this person come from? That was also added by door knocking. And he said, so door knocking works. It's not that they're going to buy something from you that minute, but you've been adding people to your database, and these are the people that have been buying from you. So a lot of people will tell you, in order to sell you on different products or services, that you don't need to do that anymore. All you need to do is buy this product and it'll make you rich. It's the basic business set that will help you get to your goals and help you enhance your goals to the next level.
Very well said, my friend. Great points to finish off here. For everybody tuned in, again, we had Mr. Asif Khan, broker owner of RE/MAX Prime Properties and Hall of Fame winner and every other award possible winner. Join us today on the show, again, talking about how to become a Hall of Fame realtor. Asif, it's been, as always, an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. We thank you very, very much for joining us on the Mindshare podcast.
Always great to be on your show, Dave. So thank you for having me. Hopefully added some value. And again, any questions, you guys can reach out to me. Love to help.
Where can people find you, Asif?
They can email me at asif@thehomeshop.ca, or they can call me on my cell, 416-931-6662.
And radio show airs when?
Saturday at 11 a.m. on 105.9 The Region. That's 105.9 FM if you're in the GTA. If not, you can get us online at 1059theregion.com.
Definitely an amazing resource in this industry, and I really encourage everybody, check them out, tune in, follow them, connect with them. Just always been an absolutely amazing person. And once again, a big thank you for making the time to join us here today. And of course, although the Stanley Cup has been handed out, the old season is out, so it's time to cheer for the Leafs again. Go Leafs, go! Go
Leafs! Thanks, David.
Thanks, pal. You are either listening to this on one of your favorite podcast platforms, or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com, and while you were there, be sure to check out the details for our upcoming Mindshare Mastermind, as well as download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so you can build more mindshare to earn more market share. For all inquiries, just get in touch with us today. Of course, don't forget to leave a review of this podcast at www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. Again, we make it super easy for you. No matter what device you're on, this will take you to your favorite podcast platform. Big 5 stars, nice little review. Let us know how much you love the show. Of course, if you would like to see somebody as a guest on the show, or you'd like to be a guest on the show, we invite you to reach out to us anytime. If you haven't yet, let's connect on Facebook and TikTok at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. I want to take a quick moment to say thank you. A big thank you to Kits Keep in Touch Systems, REM Real Estate Magazine, OREA, the Ontario Real Estate Association, and the ORCF, the Ontario Realtors Care Foundation, for sponsoring this episode. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.